And don't worry, the bankers know how to deliver judgment. God always delivers his people into the hands of the wicked as judgment. You want judgment? You think evil's sexy and cool? We are going to get what the Iraqis got tenfold in different ways. The radiation, the fluoride in the water, the poison, the deadly vaccines. You think the globalists pouring out death and dropping fire on men, women, and children's heads and lining children up to murder them, and UN troops in every country caught murdering and raping children? It constantly comes out in the news. You think these armies of hell are going to stop? No. They're abused, breathing DU, running around demonically, enjoying their own destruction. It's a spirit of trampling and being trampled upon, a servile spirit of weakness and defeat and the dull, burning eyes of evil. That's what you want. That's what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want. Depression, pain, suffering, cancer rates up by 3,000%, diabetes up by over 1,000% and growing, juvenile onset of brain disorders, people getting Alzheimer's when they're 30, your neighbors dying to your left and right, disease spreading, allergens in the food, GMO, death, destruction, pain, judgment, war, fire, stench, rotten bodies. You want it, you got it. What Hitler gave you, you're going to get it. What Stalin gave you, you're going to get it. What Mao gave you, you're going to get it. You want it, they're going to give it to you. You love laying down to corruption. You love giggling about it. You love thinking it's funny. You love deception. You love being deceived. They've got greater deceptions for you. They've got greater scams for you. Do you realize how deadly dangerous it is when shows like 24 in the last 8 years glorified torture? When the media pushed it, when Rumsfeld talked about how great it was, when Bush wrote a book last year bragging about it, they are selling you on evil so that you will accept being part of an evil empire. And so you will accept your neighbors being abused and yourself being abused. They are destroying every basic protection against oppression and slavery. Things are serious, focused, hardcore. Forefathers understood. They'd been through oppression. They'd been through a war against the greatest empire. I'm getting chills right now. It's so sad how far we've slumped. The lies about how this is humanitarian, about how Gaddafi was going up against peaceful crowds, when on record it was NATO, British, French, U.S.-backed special forces in there commanding Al-Qaeda out of Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Not even debated. And now, I mean, there's Al-Qaeda, who was used against the Serbs, used against the Russians, being used again, and the public doesn't even put two and two together. It's in mainstream news, CNN, London Telegraph, as a footnote, going back 4 years ago, and then again 2 years ago. The White House put out public statements saying they were using 4 rebel groups on the eastern border of Iraq with Persia, with Iran, to launch attacks in the country. And that U.S. Special Forces were on the ground in Iran. Acts of war. Telling us that Iran's going to launch terror attacks on us. This isn't our government. This isn't our military. Your son or daughter may be in the military, may be a great person. It'd be like a nice person who was German in the German military in 1940. Okay, the country is run by crooks. It's not America doing this. And we better hit our knees and repent. And also publicly say, not in our name, what's going on. Yeah, Gaddafi's been in power for 41 years. He looks like a goofball. But he's a strong man who's handed out millions of guns to his people. He's preparing for invasion. They're clearly got an invasion set. There's special forces there, admittedly, for over a month. The invasion forces are off the coast. And the way they're acting is they may stage a terror attack and blame it on Gaddafi, and then legitimize a crackdown domestically and more police state as we go into the Depression. What did Rand Corporation say 3 years ago that Paul Watson wrote about? Made big national news. Because we're some of the only people that will actually read government reports and write about it. Rand Corporation said in the next few years, to get out of the Depression, we need a large war, bigger than Iraq, a full regional war. How do they do it? They fund radical groups who, I'm sure have beefs with the government. These are corrupt Arab governments, every one of them a dictatorship, either whether it's run by royalty or an oligarchy. And they fund them, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Egypt, in Libya, in Jordan, friends and enemies. And by the way, the Bahraini government, big allies with the West, are now saying it's a Western plot. Well, of course it's a Western plot. They want that whole place on fire. They want to put radicals in because then the globalists can invade and clean out the radicals in each country and fully take it over. And then roll in with the sterilants, the vaccines, the fluoride in the water, the GMO crops like they've done in Iraq. And give them the same death they're giving us. They want a captured group where they can brainwash them with Western media. BBC and the U.S. government just merged as a way to launch propaganda internationally. They were already merged. Google, the head of Google now, they're saying is going to be the head of the Commerce Department. It's all government. You read at SPP, North American Union, internal documents that Judicial Watch student got 4 years ago. At those meetings, the Fortune 100 order the presidents and the Secretary of States and the heads of the energy and commerce departments of every major nation. They tell them, do this, and they ratify it. They take direct orders. The liberals are like, good, tax the corporations and give it to the people. That just goes to the government and goes to the offshore corporations. These corporations are government. They are the government, the illegitimate, stinking corporate government. 200 years ago, the British East India Company was a private government running India and countless other possessions across the Pacific. It's the British East India, Dutch East India Company model. Okay, that's what globalism is. That's what the New World Order is. Here it is, wave of unrest shakes Syria, crowds torch party HQ, definitely special force led, just like it was a month ago in Libya. Are we going to now have our government tell us, our corporate government, we've got to invade? You notice the ceremonial Congress wasn't even involved in this. The corporate UN set up by the Rockefellers ordered it last Thursday. It happened in 48 hours. Will the corporate UN, prancing around posing as liberals, running genocide, will they now call for an invasion of Syria? What about Bahrain? CNBC. I know good old boys are like, good, kill them. Bahrain's our allies, Dumbo. Bahrain king says forces have foiled foreign plot. It's all coming up. What have we told you in the last few years that the globalist stratagem was? That as they build towards the world meltdown of financial markets by design and the public birth of private corporate world government issuing the new global currency, the SDR. What have we broken down that they would do? What did Webster Tarpley, who I want to get on in the next few days, guys, go ahead. In fact, even in the last hour to even get Tarpley, I meant to tell you. What did Tarpley say the Brzezinski model was? He's written countless white papers, books. He's told us what he would do. He's running foreign affairs for Obama for behind the scenes. Destabilization, wars, breaking countries up, financing rebels, and then when the rebels fail, you move in behind them in the name of dealing with a humanitarian crisis. We have called this 100%. What did I say a few weeks ago? That they would attack Gaddafi, that was coming, and then they would stage terror attacks and say that Gaddafi had done it as a pretext to launch a full-bore ground invasion of the entire Middle East, every, quote, enemy rogue nation, but also go after the globalist big enemy, the Western populations that are their milk cows that they're bleeding dry. And now the New York Times says U.S. eyes Gaddafi terror response. U.S. intelligence agencies are watching for signs that desperate Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, under attack from a coalition air assault, could resort to acts of terrorism against Western targets. See how perfect this is? And then if he fights back, it's called terror. Or even if he doesn't, they'll stage something. The globalists for years, at least 5 they admit, have been trying to get the Iranians by attacking them internally through terror groups to respond. This is very sinister. U.S. officials are keeping an eye on that possibility, one U.S. official said. Colonel Gaddafi has extensive stockpiles of mustard gas, high explosive, at his disposal that can be used in attacks against targets in Europe or against his own people. He has also a documented history of orchestrating strikes against civilians and other world leaders. All right, now, here's the most important point that people need to be made aware of. What is the Western ally, Bahrain, saying? that just defeated with Saudi Arabian troops massive uprisings nationwide, many of them violent. Bahrain king says forces have foiled foreign plot. Oh, who do you think was behind it? Bahrain's king, Hamad bin Ismail al Khalifa, said a foreign plot against his kingdom had been foiled and thanked troops brought in from neighboring countries to help end increasing unrest after weeks of protest. But again, when he shoots peaceful protesters, it's loving and good in our media, at least for now. Will they call for an invasion of Bahrain? They didn't call for an invasion of China after Tiananmen Square or the ongoing stuff in the last 20 years. The king told forces that if such a plot had succeeded in one Gulf country, it could spill into neighboring states. Well, of course, that's the plan. The ferocity of the crackdown last week by Iranian forces, aided by the entrance of troops from the Sunni-ruled Gulf countries, stunned Bahrain's majority Shiites, the main force of protest, and angered the region's non-Arab Shiite power, Iran. So they're trying to imply Iran's the power. Iran, which supports Shiite groups in Iraq and Lebanon, has complained to the United Nations and asked neighbors to join in urging Saudi Arabia to withdraw forces from Bahrain. Now, what's going on to the west of there in Syria, north of Israel? Wave of unrest shakes Syria. Crowds torch headquarters. Crowds set fire to headquarters of the ruling Ba'ath Party in Syria and city of Dara on Sunday. Residents said as a wave of unrest in the Arab world shook even one of the most authoritarian states. The demonstrators also set ablaze the main court complex and two phone company branches. Yeah, they knew exactly what to hit. Special Force commanded. One of the firms is owned by the president, Assad's cousin. They burned the symbols of oppression and corruption, an activist said. The banks nearby were torched. So you've got all these dictatorships run by independent dictators or run by Western-backed dictators. And when the Western-backed dictators kill people and shoot them, it's loving, good, helpful, pro-America. But when it's Libya or when it is Syria, it's horrible and we've got to invade. And when I say we, again, that's my own brainwashing from the globalist. It's not our government. It's not our military. Get that through your heads as we go bankrupt. And remember all those Obama memos, all those White House advisors saying we need a new 9/11. We need a new Oklahoma City to blame on domestic groups and a 9/11 to blame on foreign groups to keep the wars going and to make Obama's approval rating go up. We need these events. Remember the Giffords shooting. Within hours, they were blaming it on talk radio. Ron Paul, Alex Jones, Rush Limbaugh, Sarah Palin. As the internet kill switch goes into place, all of this happening now, all of this unfolding, with British and other Western special forces on the ground, marking and lasing targets of the ongoing bombardment, with Gaddafi handing out over 1 million weapons to over 1 million citizens, preparing for the ground assault. And the globalists are happy to just split off the eastern part of the country, encircle Gaddafi, and then launch more guerrilla attacks over the years. But they may actually stage a terror attack. Remember, in the few months before 9/11, even the Time Magazine and Newsweek reported on this, the week after 9/11, 44,000 U.S. troops, 18,000 British troops, several aircraft carrier groups, the aircraft at land bases as well, all got ready, and Bush signed the order to attack Afghanistan on September 10th. In fact, guys, search the term Bush signed order to attack Afghanistan on September 10th. The first link will be Newsweek. I want to put that on screen for folks from 2001. They won't believe it unless they see it. A lot of them won't even search it. They'll just won't believe it. So you got all the troops already built up in the name of dealing with Egypt. You've got the amphibious ships that just arrived this week, dispatched 3 weeks ago. The amphibious Marine Corps ships, these big stub aircraft carriers, sitting there waiting to disgorge Marines. You've got Illinois National Guard being dispatched to the region. Headline, Illinois Guard heads to Libya. An Air National Guard unit out of Illinois is heading to Libya to help fight against Colonel Gaddafi. I am proud of the National Guard. That means U.S. aircraft in the air launching bombing attacks. I am proud the National Guard is able to play a part in curbing the atrocious violence against Libyan civilians by their own government, said Major General William Enrant, the adjunct general of the Illinois National Guard, in a statement.